Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Tony Farrell, the chair for the Department of Education and Liberal Arts here at Ashford University. The faculty and staff of the Department of Education and Liberal Arts welcome you to session 5 of our 8-part webinar series, The Dog Ate My Mask, Schooling and Parenting During a Pandemic. Today's session is titled, Now the Good Stuff, What's Out There to Add to My Toolbox? Today we're going to share some exciting tools and resources that can make teaching and learning at home more effective for both parents and students. Our presenters today are experts in identifying these resources and helping families understand how to apply them. At this time, I would like them to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jessie Harkins with the Department of Education and Liberal Arts, and I am the lead faculty in the Master of Arts in Special Education program.
There, I'm Kelly Olson-Stewart, and I'm the faculty lead for the PhD education.
Hi, I'm Dr. Allison Reif, and I am the lead faculty for our AA and BA programs in early childhood education.
Hi everyone, I am Jen Robinson. I am core faculty in the Bachelor's of Education Studies.
And hello everyone, I'm Chris Sorensen and I'm the lead faculty for our instructional and design programs.
Great, thanks team. So a few reminders before we start today's webinar. First, a chat will be open during the webinar. If you have any questions, Dr. Reif will respond in the chat or bring them forward at the end of the session. So at the end of our time today, there will be time for any additional questions that you may have. Finally, there will be a survey sent to you at the end of today's webinar. Please take the time to complete the survey. We use the feedback from the survey to address questions and to improve the series. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jen.
Hi everyone. So when my oldest was 11, I was his teacher. And by teacher, I mean that he was in the Washington Virtual Academy. And I was, as we're called in their program, a learning coach. At this stage, Kirk's biggest challenge was writing. Do you have this also? Your child or teen needs to write something, but they rip up the paper. Do they do everything else in the world except sit down to write? Can they tell you what they want to write, but they just can't get it onto the paper? For both Kirk and my students, I used programs that allowed them to speak into a microphone and record their voice into text. For both students, this was a game changer. They were able to break through the block that was getting their thoughts down onto the paper or the screen. Sometimes just seeing how their thoughts get onto the screen or the paper can help them persevere forward to completing their writing tasks. There are many programs that can be used to help students move their ideas from their brain to the paper. There are many products that are useful for young learners and older learners. The next few items I'm going to show can be used from early elementary all the way up to high school. And the great thing is some of the products you already use have that dictation feature as part of the package. A commonly used program such as Microsoft Word or many of the Microsoft products now have the speech-to-text feature. So to find this, you just have to type dictate up in that corner where it says, tell me what you want to do, and then click on help, and the screen will lead you through how to set that up. Also, if you have Word on your phone, iPad, or tablet, you could still use dictation. So if you have a child or a student who needs to be mobile or struggles with sitting still, or maybe you just do not have access to a computer at the moment, they can walk and write. So if technology is limited, a phone or another device can still be used when writing. If your student uses Google Docs or any of the Google Drive products, the dictate or speech-to-text feature is also available in this product. If you click on Tools in the toolbar at the top of your document in Google Docs, and then click Voice Typing, your student is able to speak and see their words appear right on the screen. You can also use free browser versions of speech-to-text programs. One of these free programs is called Dictation.io. It is super easy to use. You just click on that start button, you can record your voice and then click stop, and you see all of those words start populating on the screen. I think you get the point that there are many ways to help students with getting the words from their brains down onto the paper or the screen. So now you've made it this far, right? You've made it this far in the battle. We have the words, they're on the screen, but now they're just a long string of text with little coherence to a reader. So to help students with proofreading and editing, there are programs that can help with that also. Grammarly is one such program. Students simply copy and paste their information from the Word program or whatever they're using into Grammarly, and it's going to start to cue the student as to what things need edited and revised. They may need some adult assistance with this the first few times, regardless of the age, because they're going to be taking that information out of one and putting it into another. There are ways to hook Grammarly into Word. Feel free to email me to find out about that. But of utmost importance is reminding them to save, save, save. Losing a document is the last thing we want to happen to a teen or tween, because that causes way too much frustration for the student and anyone helping them. When a student does put their writing into Grammarly, there are going to be several colors that show up. And it's going to indicate the things that need fixed. And it's going to feel a little overwhelming the first couple of times. So it's helpful to encourage students to work on one color at a time. So maybe they can work on all of the red dots, and that might be just grammatical stuff. So work on the red stuff, go away, come back. Then work on all of the green dots, that might be spelling. Go away and come back. Bit by bit, students will be revising and proofreading their own work. Where was this when we were in school, huh? So afterward, oh, I already said that. But after they've done all of the proofreading, then it's really helpful to have them read aloud, forward and backward, so sentence by sentence backward, so that they can listen to their paper to see if there's anything else that needs to be revised. You can also have the student read to a learning coach, read to a parent, or have that learning coach and parent read to the student. This way, the student is still hearing what they wrote and then can listen for any other revisions. So now that we've talked about writing specifically, let's move into looking at reading and writing at the younger ages. If your student is younger and not quite at writing sentences, and you want them to combine reading, sentence structure, and writing, apps such as Sentence Maker are a great place to start. For young students or students learning English, this can help with reading, sentence structure, and writing. It also has immediate feedback so that the user knows if the sentence was correct or not. The best part, it's free. There are no in-app purchases to entice our kids, but just supportive programming to help developing readers and writers. If you have a student who's working on specific sight words or needs help with spelling and creating sentences, the Sight Words app, which is free with no in-app purchases, is a quick help tool for parents and teachers. This app allows you to program in specific words to create flashcards, spelling activities, and for writing using dictation. This would be a great app for students to use after school, especially, or even during school, but especially if parents need to do a meeting, need to complete some work, and the student can still do these things to get immediate feedback. It's also helpful for upper elementary and into middle school students to practice vocabulary in math, science, and social studies. The Sight Words Fry List is another app that reviews sight words by becoming progressively more challenging with vocabulary and is predetermined by the commonly used Fry word list. It has some of the many features of the previous app, but does not allow you to pre-program the words. However, I do like the handy dandy spelling piece. The app says the word and then the user spells the word or types the word on the screen. That also provides immediate feedback about if the spelling is correct. This app would also be great for supplementing classroom learning and as a way kids can be in a learning activity while students or guardians or parents or learning coaches need to have meetings or finish up some work. Okay, so we've combined a bit of reading and writing for the younger learners, but what about those teens and tweens? How in the world do we get them reading? So for teens and tweens, do not overlook the power of audiobooks and graphic novels. I know these have been mentioned in other webinars, but I cannot stress enough how helpful these are for helping teens and tweens fall into a book or tolerate a book to the end. Whether it is fiction or nonfiction, graphic novels exist to support all readers with visuals to promote comprehension. These were a really great way to help my struggling readers understand information and to support their learning. And audiobooks. In our modern world, we do not have to buy books on Audible through Amazon, although you can, I certainly do, but we can also rent audiobooks from our public library. Many, if not all, public libraries now have digital books that can be checked out without even going to the library. I used these heavily when I taught middle school. It was a great way to have students hear the book they were reading while reading along. If it was a text for school, for free reading, I would let them listen to the book of their choice while they drew or built with Legos. Even big kids still like to play with Legos. However, they were more apt to read during free reading if they could listen, and they were still able to tell me about the book. They would ask if I could get specific books that they were interested in so they could read them while listening. Many school textbooks do have this online Audible feature to accompany the text. So please ask your child, your tweens, your teens teacher how to access this tool so that your students can use that at home as well. So I know kids have a tough time staying attention. We've touched on this quite a bit in this series, but I want to share a trick with you that I have used to help my students stay with me during math, reading, and writing. One trick I used with my students was called Classcraft. If you have a Gmail account or a school email, you can access this platform. And so as the learning coach or teacher or parent, this is a game that fits the needs of your learning environment. And the great thing about this program is that you get to customize the goals and behaviors that you want to see in the students so they get points to go on adventures. They can reconfigure their character and have lots of fun in the game. But the game is based on positive behavior, and you, the learning coach, the parent, the guardian, the teacher, get to decide for which behavior students receive points. Classcraft allows you to personalize the game. If you have kids who are seriously into games, this is a perfect game to help them keep focused. In the classroom, I used to give my students brain breaks. Sorry, I just lost my place. And every other day, they were able to see how many points they earned, and then they could go on an adventure with the points they had earned. The most fun was sitting with the kids and setting up their powers. They could be guardians or healers or mages. They were even able to access this at home to show their parents what they had done well during the day. So this game is almost like a choose your own adventure, since the adventures are based upon the points they receive, and the points they receive are based upon the positive behaviors that you have programmed into the game. Now, Chris is going to lead you through some tools to support math.
All right, thank you, Jen. Okay, so everyone listen carefully, all right? Train A, traveling 60 miles an hour, leaves Los Angeles towards New York City, which is about 2,800 miles away. 1 hour after Train A leaves Los Angeles, Train B, traveling 80 miles an hour, leaves New York City, headed towards Los Angeles. When do the two trains meet? All right, so this is a math problem that still has most of us scratching our heads. For many, math is not a favorite subject. The truth is, it's a subject that many students struggle in, and as a result of this struggle, they don't like it. So I'm going to present a handful of resources to help support students and parents with math. All right, the first tool we're going to look at is called MATHSCHASE. So this tool is geared towards elementary students, and it focuses on the areas of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. MATHSCHASE gives students the opportunity to practice their math skills within the context of a game-based setting in which they have to solve problems before they're caught by a character known as the chaser. So here's the homepage of the site. You start by inputting certain parameters to guide your students' practice. I've highlighted a few here. These include question types. You can see from the drop down to the right that you have a variety of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division options. You can select the character you want to be in the game. So students have the option of being a pirate, a bunny, an explorer, a princess, or a robot. And then in addition, you can select the speed of the chaser. And so once you input these details, all you have to do is click the Start Game button. So here we have a couple screenshots of the game. You can see I chose to be the robot and I selected multiplication. So the student will answer the problem, in this case 4 times 8, by inputting their answer into the box and clicking enter. So if the student gets the problem correct, the student's character moves across the bridge. So if the student gets the problem wrong, the correct answer will be displayed on the screen, but their character will then move backwards. So as you can see, there's a chaser, which is indicated by this little blue monster, and it will be moving across the screen towards the character. So the goal is to continue to answer the questions correctly and make it across the bridge before the chaser catches up to you. So again, you can determine the speed of the chaser, and this is a great feature because it kind of allows the student to slowly increase the speed of the chaser, like with each round of practice, so they can kind of challenge themselves. So let's take a look at our next math resource. Our next resource is called Math Learning Center. This resource includes a collection of apps for your mobile devices. Like our previous resource, this one is also geared towards elementary students. And apps such as these are great because they can be downloaded to your smartphones, your tablets, and taken with you wherever you go. So we're going to look at an example here. Here's an example of one of the apps. So this app is called Math Clock, and it helps students to learn about time. So here you can see that the app is going to present material in a variety of ways, use strategies such as color coding, as well as embed learning within everyday scenarios. So we know that nowadays mobile devices are glued to the hands of our students, so why not put some educational content, on these devices? Again, apps like these are great because they allow students, they allow parents to take the learning with them wherever they go. All right, next tool we're gonna look at is called Virtual Nerd, and it's geared towards middle and high school students. This resource is a collection of over 1,500 video lessons that cover various middle and high school math concepts. It's a great resource for students who are visual learners. The image here is the homepage. As you can see, it's very straightforward. The site is easy to navigate. So let's walk through the process of accessing a specific video so you can see what that looks like. So say you have a student who's in geometry and they're learning about different types of angles. So I started by clicking on geometry. Right, so once you click on geometry, you're going to get a whole list of related topics, and then you can click on one of these topics and you're given a list of subtopics. So yeah, I clicked on fundamentals of geometry, and then from there, measuring angles. After clicking on that subtopic, measuring angles, you can see there's a list of videos to choose from related to that topic. And so like I said, there's over 1,500 videos, and I know that's a lot of videos. But there's so many videos here because the creators of the site have really broken down the topics. A major benefit to this is that the videos will be short. You can see here from the video on the screen, it's only 1 minute and 15 seconds long. And so I found most of the videos tend to be less than 10 minutes, with many videos being less than 5 minutes. So shorter videos are great for students who have shorter attention spans. And again, it's going to be a great resource for those students who are visual learners. All right, so I would say this next tool is probably one of my favorites, and it kind of blew my mind. It's a mobile app by the name of SOCRATIC by Google. It too is geared towards middle and high school students, and specifically content areas of algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. So with this app, you actually take a picture of the math problem using your phone or tablet, and you will be given step-by-step directions on how to solve that problem. So to try the app out, I downloaded it, and on a piece of paper, I wrote out 2x plus 3 equals 5. So with this equation, students would then be asked to solve for x. So after writing the equation down, I opened up the app, took a picture of the problem, and the image you see here is the top match that the app found. So the app will be able to locate the equation. And here it gives you the solution right away. It just says x equals 1. But you also have the option to click on steps to solve, and then you'll see the step-by-step process for solving this equation. So after you click the steps to solve, you're taken to a screen that has an overview tab and a solve tab. So the overview tab gives guidance on how to solve the equation. So for example, in the first bullet point, students are told when solving a linear equation, you want to maintain balance of the equation by applying the same operations to both sides. So then when you click on the Solve tab, here's where you'll see the step-by-step directions for solving the equation. So you can see here that there are 4 steps to solving this problem. So this app could be used in a few different ways. One, if the student is struggling with a problem, they could use it to help guide them through the process of solving that problem. Number 2, this is a good tool for students to use to help them check their work after completing a problem. And then finally, this could be a great tool for parents and guardians who maybe haven't seen an algebra problem in 20 plus years, and now you're being asked to kind of help with homework. So all you need to do, take a picture of the problem, and then you have that step-by-step directions right there. So it's a pretty cool tool. And finally, the final math related resource we're going to take a look at is called CORBETTMATHS, and it's geared towards all K-12 students. This resource has close to 400 videos on various math concepts. With each video, there are worksheets and practice exercises with the answers. So it's a great resource that combines instruction and practice. The videos here also tend to be shorter. So again, it's nice for those students with shorter attention spans. So on the home page, you'll see an option for videos and worksheets. You just click on that, you're taken to a page that lists all the math topics in alphabetical order with links to a video and then practice questions. And then just to give you an idea of what you're going to see within a topic. So here's an example. We're looking at the topic of naming 2D shapes. There's a short video covering the names of different 2D shapes. And then when we move over to the upper right, we see an example of one of the practice problems where students are just asked to name the shapes that they see. And then right below that, you can see are the answers that you have access to. So this right here is kind of the general format or a package, right? For each topic, you get a video, a worksheet, and then the answers. So next, we're going to go over to Kelly, who's going to take us through some tools related to productivity.
Thank you, Chris. Let's take a look at some creative tools when your kiddos need to create or develop something. So often my own kids, almost 16, it's important, and 12, have gotten bored when they're asked to create a PowerPoint or a Word or Google Doc as a way to express their understanding or as a project. And sometimes simply having that new tool can get them more jazzed and get those creative vibes going. So these are 5 clever tools. They've all been kid tested and with rave reviews. So we're going to dive in and take a quick preview of each one. You can click along, the link is in the chat, and then bookmark these tools to try out later. And I have even used these myself as a professor and staff developer. So ideally, you can use these professionally and maybe even impress your colleagues. All right, our first tool to peek at is Padlet. And this is an online post-it note or bulletin board with added functionality. And you can create 3 boards for free on one account. So it lets you visually organize information and collaborate as well, which is a great feature if your student is working on a group project. It's super easy to use. Once you make the board from scratch or from an existing template that matches your task, you simply click on the board to add the post-it or idea. So the top example is a clever way that a mom utilized the tool for home productivity as the chore list for each day of the week. And this could be easily updated, and it could even work as an electronic Con board, Jen Zauer, I'm trying to say it correctly, that was presented at an earlier session. The other example is a visual timeline with images where you can add in external links. And then that bottom corner example is a collaborative page for a group of students who are posting their book reviews and allowing each other to comment on them. So let's take a peek at a few other of the Padlet boards. Here on the left, we see students collectively contributing their favorite literary quotes. Another board includes a map option where students can annotate, include images, and mark areas of the world that they want to spotlight. And finally, the other board is a book list of titles from a first grader, and it's much more of a visual way than simply a book list. Padlet is a great tool to use for book reports, timelines, logs, planners, blogs, lists. The list goes on. And again, the collaborate option by just sharing the link is so great. And the gallery that they have to explore, you could spend hours in. So again, anything to get my kiddos excited about some of the routine assignments is a win. Our next spotlight tool is POWTOON. So this is a visual communication platform with animation. Students really love talking cartoon characters. And to be quite honest, I've used these in my own courses that I teach too. The free options are great for reports, introductions, explanations, and they have jazzy music too. And additionally, the final projects really look polished and professional. The templates are easy to use and fill in, so they're even useful for our younger users. Here's a few examples, other examples of POWTOON. So you can see how the style can change to more infographic, that very popular whiteboard option, and even creating your own videos. My kids love creating these for projects, and then they just share the link with their teacher. And they really like the option of recording their own voice and talking through the presentations. And they said that their classmates think these are way cooler than the lame PowerPoints that everyone else is doing. So I'll take that as a ringing endorsement, as this is one of their go-to tools. Our third productivity tool is GLOGSTER. So this is a visual learning platform where students can create multimedia posters. So think digital science fair boards that allow for links, resources, and graphics. And my kids love creating these as a standard poster alternative. They're really visually engaging, and it's way easier to move things around than compared to Elmer's, markers, and construction paper, which if you have a type A kiddo, you know can be a challenge. The templates are available as starters, and they support students in getting those key ideas on the paper or on the template, and they're quite extensive. At the top, you can see a template for the 3 branches of government, so the student simply fills in the information. And bonus, you can adjust the template as well. The other example is a write-up of the steps to a science experiment and results. This one we just used in our house with a science experiment of 2 glasses of milk being left out for 2 days. Now keep in mind that one was left outside in 115 degrees here in Arizona, and the other in the laundry room cabinet. Not surprisingly, one spoiled faster than the other, but all of the data pictures that she took were put into the template, saved, and simply sent to her teacher. Let's look at a couple other GLOGSTER options. Within that template gallery, the great thing is there's also music, art, and even math templates. So the math template at the top includes images where you can take pictures of a student's whiteboard or pictures that they take of their work and drop those right into the template. You can see next to that is actually my daughter's Costa Rica report that she created, and she included images, links, even Costa Rican music. Her teacher loved it. She had fun creating it, which is always a bonus. And now her teacher actually offers GLOGSTER as an option to the traditional posters. Below is a template that was also used in my house to create an origami project. My oldest used this in creating an explanation for the 1,000 paper cranes of how to make a paper crane, and he took pictures of each step of how to make origami, which I still cannot master. And then finally, the template on the bottom right is for a book review, which is much more extensive than I've seen in other places. And as a former middle school language arts teacher, I really appreciate the scaffolding that the templates provide students. Our fourth tool here is Toontastic. This is actually an app that works on phones, tablets, and Chromebooks with some functionality online as well. And it's a creative storytelling program. It allows students to draw, animate, narrate, and record cartoons, which is always a win. And of course, the content of the cartoons can be simply anything. There's example reports in the app of the Civil War, Greek mythology, Telltale Heart, Outsiders, and again, all told via cartoons. It's another good option where students are frustrated or turned off by sort of a stand and deliver report that they may be asked to do. And we have found that most of our teachers have been super open and excited to have students use new tools as long as it's meeting the criteria that's required by the class. This one works really great for stories, reports, social lessons, cooking shows, which my kiddos have done as well, fan fiction, epic capers, mysteries, and even family adventures. And our final tool for you to consider to impress your kiddos and your colleagues is Google's Jamboard. So this is a collaborative digital whiteboard that's available in the Google suite of tools. And I originally saw an ad for the Google Jamboard, which is similar to a smart board, but if you search for Jamboard in your Google search bar, you can open it and create a Jamboard within moments. And so just for fun one day, I've made a family Jamboard, sent the link to my kids and husband, and this was a simple and fun way we could communicate during the day. It allows you to annotate, draw on the board, add sticky notes, links to other sites, graphics, and allowed us to use either the mouse to draw or type notes to each other. You can use it for collaborative artwork, brainstorming, a virtual whiteboard. My oldest actually used it with his teacher. He was struggling with a math problem and he was able to show his teacher his work and then figure out where his error was. So hopefully those tools may inspire you and your kiddos to try some new ways to express their learning. Now on to Jessie with some troubleshooting tips.
Thanks, Kelly. Kelly and the team shared lots of examples of tools that can help with those specific situations that we use as we're supporting our children in their virtual, their hybrid, or their socially distanced classrooms. Let's turn our attention to what happens if all this technology doesn't work. What then? First, let's consider that the accessible technology and tools that will be used across the country this year might look different from district to district, but they all serve a similar educational function. Let's look at them by priority, though. The highest priority technology you will need to access online or hybrid information is an internet or cellular connection and a device. Without these, the rest is inaccessible. So the question to ask is this provided by your district or is it not provided? If you do not have access to internet or a device, the first reach out should be your school district to see if they have a plan or supports for providing those items to you. And the next resource could be your local library. But we also have links on our open source ed resource page for internet and device programs available across the country if you do have issues with that highest priority of technology. The second level of technology would be what systems for classroom organization and communication are being used in your classroom or district. These might be things like Google Classroom, Canvas, Blackboard, Zoom, Google Hangouts or Google Meet, Teams or WebEx. Hopefully I said something that sounds familiar. Your first resource for tech not working might be your teacher or your district tech support, but we have also linked all the help guides for those common programs being used in schools on our resource page. The third and fourth levels of technology you might run into issues with would be additional apps or resources that are suggested by the classroom teacher or to be used to complete assignments like the ones that Kelly just mentioned, Padlet and the Google boards and things. The resources and apps that you might need to support your child's individual needs as well. If you run into tech issues in those situations, most of those sites do, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, have an FAQ, frequently asked question, or help link directly in that app to guide you, but you might also reach out to the teacher for an alternative or check out our resource page to see if you can find some links there. So we have our technology tools. Now let's talk about some tools for making them work for you. Some of the tech tools and platforms will completely be selected by your child's teacher or school district. There are still several tips and tricks that you can use to make this more efficient for your child and you, and support a successful virtual or hybrid classroom environment for your child's teacher at the very same time. You might have asked yourself, how do I do that in a synchronous session? Or how does my child do that in a synchronous session? Or how do I find that? Luckily, there are already people who have asked the same questions you and I have for programs like Zoom, Google Meets, Teams, WebEx, Google Classroom, and Canvas. And these tips and tricks are organized for you in one place on our resource page. You can find out how to use shortcuts to control aspects of the meeting or the classroom content. You can learn how to share out content, to chat, to submit work, even if it's a different format. Say you used one of those tools that Kelly was talking about and you want to submit it as a link, there's tips and tricks on how to do it there. You can ask a question, learn to ask a question privately, stop your child from drawing all over the teacher's screen, which is a classic in my son's classroom, or do almost anything that these programs can do. You can also find how to use a virtual background, take control over your layout to control how it looks. Especially if your child has focus issues, you can make sure you arrange the board or the screen so that they can see exactly what the teacher wants them to see during a live session. So what if you run into an issue and you need a tool like right now? How do I find that? This is where learning to use your search engine like a pro comes in. There are some tips and tricks to find just about anything. Use quotations and search the exact phrase that you need in Google or Bing or whatever your favorite search engine is. And if you can't find it with those quotation marks around it, use a plus sign. If more than one topic is essential, so you have two parts that you want to search, one word plus sign the other word, and it will also help you find that term more directly. And use a minus sign to exclude terms if you're getting the wrong result or focus. Say Zoom is bringing up car apps, do minus automobile, and you'll be more likely to find what you're looking for. A good search term to use for browser tips, for example, is tips for a Zoom layout. There's no time right now for reinventing that spinning wheel. So before you make it yourself, do a search using those tips and see what's out there. And more search tips can be found on our resource page. So tools for knowing what to do are not the end of supporting our students and tools that we need in our toolbox. We also need to look at different ways that we might be balancing school, home, and or work in our household. Let's talk about some tools and places to look. We have had several questions in our prior webinars for more information and resources to support working parents. As a working parent that understands the perspective of a single working parent, there are resources that are so valuable in my home as well. Let's start here though. There are a lot of resources out there for ways that employers can support working parents during this current pandemic. In fact, when you search for resources to support parents, you will find ways companies and employers can respond before you find tools for parents. But this does speak to one way you can find support for balancing your home, work, and school environment. Advocate and share those resources and professional suggestions from sources like Forbes or UNICEF with your supervisor or your company leadership. Ask questions for how your organization or company supports parents at this time, and these resources are also available on our open source ed page. Is your employer already doing some of these things, or do you not feel comfortable approaching them? Or is your place of work not able to create a situation that supports your household needs at this time? There are still tools for that. Let's start by talking about setting up the family emotional and behavioral self-care support system in the home, because this can really set the tone and lay the groundwork for all the other steps you take as a working parent in balancing the household. If you feel that you want to explore some systems or make a change for what you're already doing, consider checking out social emotional systems and resources such as Love and Logic or the Choose Love movement. They have ready-made tools to create an atmosphere of independence and working together as a household. As you might guess, those resources are also linked on our resource page. So let's get real here. Are you working outside the home while supporting school? Let's talk some resources for that. Whether you are a single parent household or you have a differing level of caregiver grouping in your household, the #1 resource is leveraging your support system. Don't have one? Reach out to your school and community systems near you to create one. You could start with your school or religious community, libraries, community centers, or organizations like the National Urban League, YMCA, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and just work out from there. Search for online networks and join and ask on community pages. Be sure to take notes if you have leads on ways to build your network, and band with other families that you feel safe with and start making connections. Another key thing from working outside the home and supporting school is to be upfront with your manager and coworkers. Find out the level of flexibility that you have, and be upfront with your school and find out the level of flexibility that they have for those live synchronous learning sessions, the due dates that are in place, or even recording teacher lessons for later viewing. Once you know what time frame and level of schedule flexibility you're working with and who will be supporting the live and independent learning, as well as when it will happen, you can use these next systems I'm going to discuss for parents who are working remotely from home. So are you setting up to work remotely in your home in the same place as your child, or setting them up to work with another caregiver while you work? We have mentioned some tips in other webinars that are definitely still at play here. Apps or paper methods for scheduling, creating home workstations, and setting ground rules are all very important. But some other suggestions include being upfront with your boss and collaborating with any coworkers in your support network. Plan for interruptions because they're going to happen, and get creative. Sometimes you might take that meeting with a virtual background in your car. Sometimes you might post a stop sign outside your office door or the closet to indicate that it is not time for interruptions. Separate your role as parent and your role as education facilitator, as Jennifer mentioned, and schedule times for both. Either within your household or within your support network, divide up those responsibilities to support the kids, or if they're old enough, bring them into that planning. Promote and teach independence, because this will help so much in the long run. Work in bursts as you're able, and above all, grant yourself some grace. It does not have to be perfect, and please do not expect that it will be. There are links on our resource page that will provide you with specific resources on each of these tools of the remote working parent trade, and whether you're working from home, working outside the home, or supporting your children full-time, take care of yourself and teaching self-care to your children. It's definitely a tool for success. Kelly is now going to talk some more about additional tools for putting well-being at the center.
Thank you, Jessie. Yes, let's talk well-being, as we know that navigating too much screen time or simply inactivity and stress is hard on all of us. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but on that online resource page, there is just a ton of resources for you to jump in and take a peek. And I'm just going to share a few ideas that have been working in our house, where my husband, who's an educator, is working outside of the home, and I'm home working from home. We all know the importance of music, movement, breathing, stretching, and outside time is so critical. And this can be a little bit tricky depending on your current weather situation. For us in Arizona, it's still too hot to be outside, so we're feeling a little bit trapped. So one idea that's been working for us is to use our Alexa or Google. I have to be careful because she always hears me and then starts chiming. Or your cell phone reminder, or even that handy microwave timer to take breaks. Essentially, if it's on our calendar, the entire family gets a prompted reminder, we're more likely to do it. We can set a timer to stay on time so no one's late back to their next class or meeting. And these breaks really are well-being, maybe as short as 5 minutes or as long as 30, depending on the day and intensity of our schedules. We do one of 5 things during those breaks: move, listen, draw, design, or create. Certainly the kids get jazzed when there's a more fun, engaging site than just mom's ideas. Even as much as I want to move our kids off devices, there's amazing online resources that help me to get excited too. There's a Zumba video with Disney songs. Sometimes we'll even ask Alexa to create or to play a trivia game that we can do, simple stretching, do quick 15 dumbbell curls, or design something with 17 Legos in 5 minutes, which is a family favorite. The kitchen table has become the diamond artwork workstation. So these teeny little jewels that mom can't see as well as the kids, you put into spots to make a picture, to draw a picture quick, or print a coloring sheet hot off the printer. My kiddos are loving that. I'm amazed at how finding something quick and creative like that can help us calm our brains and get us reset for our next meeting or class. And sometimes we need to try a breathing exercise with online yoga. I've learned square breathing online. Sometimes we march around the house to see one tunes thanks to Alexa. And yes, my kids roll their eyes and the dogs bark, and yet they'll still humor me and do it, and it's good for all of us. And ideally, I want our kids to be having their own reminders, getting up from their computers themselves, but I know that it's in that I model that, and I actually need the breaks as well. And we try to balance the responsibilities. Sometimes my husband will simply text the kids to stand up at their desk and stretch, or walk away from their computers on a break come to the family room, leave a message for him just to get them away for their computers, or FaceTime them during their lunch. Sometimes he'll just quick chat with them as they're making a quick trip to the mailbox just to break up that sitting time. And finally, your last brain break tip for today, the 20-20-20 rule. So this is so important for your eyes. For 20 seconds, look 20 feet away from your computer screen, and then close your eyes for 20 seconds. Then come back to your computer. Your eye doctor will thank you. So there are some really amazing resources to help with strategies and much more on the webpage: virtual PE, movement ideas, music, art options, and Jesse's going to help navigate the webpage to find the resources to best connect with your needs.
Thank you, Kelly. So we have been referencing and talking about our free community open source ed resources for you page throughout this webinar series, and this link has been shared during this one as well. Today, since we're focusing on these tools to support all parents and caregivers, I want to take you on a mini tour of the page to show you around. For all practical purposes, this resource site is one central gathering place to organize different tools that we as a community might need at this time. So let's start the tour. Are you looking for something you heard in this webinar series? You can find certificates or recordings by scrolling down on the Open Source Ed homepage until you see the Dog Ate My Mask logo. Click there and you will see links to all the resources and information related to each webinar, both by session and by topic. Let's look at an example of what you might find for each session. Here you see an example from session 1, Organizing Your Learning Environment for Success. In each topic, you will see a link to the 1-hour webinar recording, along with this quick list of information covered in the webinar at a glance. Then, if you scroll down, you'll see the links to the resources on that topic. Here again, we see an example from the topic of Organizing Your Learning Environment. For each topic-based webinar, you will see a similar format. In addition, there's a link on each page to more tools. Don't worry, these resources are organized in such a way that they can be accessed through multiple ways. So if you're looking for even more than was shared in our webinars, we have you covered. From the home page or from each of the topic pages, you can access more resources specifically gathered to support parents and caregivers. Here you will see how to support learning, a page for kids to access to take virtual field trips and other kid-friendly sites, along with many topics to support self-care and the whole family. But that's not all. We also have resources for teachers and administrators, your college-age kiddos, and more. Also, if I went too fast, or if you're more of a hands-on learner and want to take a tour again later, there is a video on the resource page from today's session for you to reference over and over again. And again, if something is missing or if you have a great resource to share, please let us know and it will be added. Back to you, Tony.
Thanks, Jesse. So in summary, there are great tools available for reading, writing, and math. Audiobooks are a great way to get kids hooked on reading. Productivity tools can keep students engaged. Tools for well-being are absolutely important as well. And all of our tools and websites mentioned today can be found in our Open Source Ed Resources for You website. Through a great deal of information today, and certainly don't expect everybody to have it all memorized. All those resources are available on our Open Source Ed site. But at this time, I'd like to ask Allie if there are any questions for the panelists.
Yeah, let's start with a great one we got from our chat. Kelly, you mentioned some really great ideas for spicing up some of those routine tasks with the use of technology and productivity tools. And yes, they were kid tested and approved. Do you have any tips for how parents could suggest these options to their children's teachers? We know their teachers are doing a lot and we don't want to overwhelm them, but some teachers might not know that parents are having to kind of fight their kids to do some of these more mundane tasks.
Absolutely. Great question. What we have found is if we email the teacher and we explain the rationale of why we want to use a different tool, make sure that we're highlighting the key areas that are required, that the teachers have been more than willing and excited to see a final product. And we've really lucked out in working with our teachers that they have been so excited when they see the tool that's available and then end up using it in their own classrooms. And our kids always feel really proud when their teacher is using a tool that they used as a product. So Very rarely has a teacher said no, especially when you're thinking about trying to get our kids to be 21st century thinkers, communicating, collaborating, being creative with a unique tool.
That's great. I can tell you when we did our run through for this webinar and people were sharing all these apps and things, I was like ferociously on my phone trying to download all the apps and have them ready. So I'm sure teachers are the same way. You know, as educators, we always joke that we aren't creators. We just learn to steal things very well. So I'm sure the educators will be happy to hear about that. I noticed in the chat someone was asking about an app to pause or freeze the screen for a certain amount of time. I know my kids' teachers use a countdown timer within Zoom that they put up for a certain amount of time. Does anybody else have a tool they use for that? Jen?
I haven't used it myself, but I used to work with someone who had an owl sound. So every 20 minutes you heard hoo hoo, hoo hoo. And then that was his cue to look away. So I do not know of something that would freeze the screen, but the person I worked with did have some sort of a cue on their computer to remind them.
And another thing I'm sure we could ask Alexa, which I can say out loud because I'm at the office and not at home, so no, she won't hear me. We also have a question about the 20-20-20 rule. Kelly? Oh, I see.
No, you're good. I was typing in the chat as well. So every 20 minutes, you look away for 20 seconds, at least 20 feet away, and then close your eyes for 20 seconds. I guess it's 20-20-20-20 if you really want to get technical about it. And it's just really to give our eyes a break. Eye doctors are talking about how students' eyes are getting tired because online so much or looking at a phone. So it's a great to remind yourself to take a break.
Good reminder for us all. Chris, as a former science teacher, do you ever see that parents' kind of negative feelings towards math have rubbed off on their own children? And how can we go about prohibiting that kind of negative exchange?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, for years I taught chemistry, and chemistry has a lot of math in it. And it's kind of a class that students really aren't prepared for. They think they're signing up for just a science class. It's like, surprise, math. A lot of algebra-based math. So, you know, if I had a student who didn't like math, it certainly was not uncommon to see that in the household, there was kind of this shared view towards the subject. So I would start by saying, to the parents, be very aware of your attitudes and your behaviors towards the subject, at home. Kids are very impressionable and they're going to pick up on negativity. So if they see that you don't like it, that you get frustrated, then they're going to say, oh, well, this is hard, so I don't like it. And so you kind of just plant that seed in their head. So it's just moving away from the mindset of frustration to one of more problem solving. Like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's do this. In addition, as the parent, use the resources, what we're sharing here. They're not just for the kids. All those math videos, it's like, don't just give your child the video and then walk away, right? It's like, sit down with them and watch the video together. So not only is this like a positive behavior because it's more collaborative. You're going to tackle this problem together. But chances are you're going to pick up on things by watching the video, right? And kind of learn. So those two things, it's the mindset, shifting that mindset, using those resources are going to help to create more of that positive atmosphere in the home.
Thanks, Chris. That's a great reminder. I swear Google heard Chris and I talking about this before because I got a article sent through Facebook or something about how their grades can actually decrease when they overhear a parent saying that they don't like a subject or they don't, they feel they aren't good at it. And with math, it's heavily linked between mothers and daughters. So something to think about and something I remind myself about all the time. Let's see, let's move over to Dr. Robinson. Do you ever worry about allowing kids to use the dictation and proofreading tools? Is it kind of a cheat, or are we robbing them of some skills by letting them dictate rather than write, or have a computer catch their mistakes instead of them catching their mistakes?
I don't think so. I think some of the block that students have with writing is just getting it from the brain to the computer screen or the paper. So if we're streamlining that process, and very often I would have students do the dictation, and then we would print out what they dictated, and then they would say that was it. That because writing sometimes feels so mysterious. There has to be this formula, and it's hard, just like math, right? It's really a great thing if we can show them how easy it is. It's getting their thoughts onto paper is the first step. And then we can take all of those other steps of organizing and revising, and sometimes that's all it takes. We use computers so often anyway that it makes sense to allow students that scaffold to get all that information from here to the screen. It's really nice to see a student who has that, oh, that's all it took? Yeah. So it helps to take away some of those blocks that they're feeling about this hard process of writing.
I know myself, I really despise seeing that flashing cursor on a blank Word document. It just like makes your entire brain shut down. So I get that.
I've taught many of my university students how to do that also, and they really enjoy having that break from the constant click, 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 just being able, there's something about it freeing them up to just get the information out.
That's great. You hit us with a good education lingo term, Dr. Robinson, and I was hoping you could explain for our parents at home. You talked about scaffolding. Could you elaborate on what scaffolding is so parents have an idea about what that means?
Scaffolding are those little ramps we put under students to help them succeed. So you have to think about the scaffolding on a building that helps the carpenters and the electricians do everything they need to do when they're building a building. So as we're providing these resources to prop students up, it acts as a scaffolding to get them to that next level of what it is they want to achieve with the subject or topic they're working on.
That's great. So we should view that as a positive, not as like a hand-holding type of hindrance that some people may view it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So Tony, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks, Allie. Thanks, team. Incredible job today. Lots of very useful tools. And again, to those who are attending our webinar today, don't feel like if you didn't write it down that you're going to miss anything. Please see our Open Source Ed Resource Center for access to all of the information from today. So that being said, we're going to end today's webinar. I just want to remind everybody that our sixth webinar in our series will be next Wednesday. Distance but not detached, supporting students as they navigate online learning. We'll talk a little bit about special education, English as second language learners, gifted and talented, and even we'll have information for those that are struggling with online learning right now. So look forward to seeing everybody next week. That being said, I want to thank our panelists for today, and we'll see you next week.